Walk with me for a few minutes. Have you ever been in a place where you've had like complete and total tunnel vision? You know what I mean by tunnel vision, right? Like a laser focus, blinders on, narrow view on a topic or a direction or a feeling. Tunnel vision. Now, I know normally when we use the word tunnel vision, at least in my experience, normally we use it in a kind of positive context, meaning like, man, they were in the zone, right? They were in a flow state. Like tunnel vision usually describes someone that's just overly focused, committed, disciplined, blocking out all distractions, moving forward like a rhino or a freight train. How many of you have ever been in that kind of flow state where you just laser locked on something that you wanted, a direction you were going, and everything else got totally blocked out? Maybe if you've ever played a sport at any point in your life, you felt that zone, or ever been involved in something that you love to do, you're passionate about, and you got in kind of a flow state. Give me some comments below. All capital yes, if you can think of a place where you've had complete and utter tunnel vision. But here's my question for this morning. Have you ever got stuck in the wrong tunnel? Meaning, have you ever had that same tunnel vision, that same narrow perspective, but the thing or the direction or the feeling you were focused on or obsessed or fixated on was not good for you? Like it was the wrong thing. I want to talk this morning about how sometimes we can get stuck in a narrow perspective in the wrong direction that can really cripple us. And I think this is an overly simplistic way to describe, a lot of the negative states that we all get stuck in from time to time. A lot of, the tough states we're seeing people right now, especially this year, get stuck in. If I were just to super simplify, a lot of it comes down to we get stuck in a narrow vision on the wrong thing. Think about it. What is fear other than getting stuck down the wrong tunnel and constantly obsessing or playing a loop in our head of something that might happen, catastrophic? What is stress other than paying attention, right, to something in our mind that triggers that fear response or nervous system response? Or what is anxiety, right? Getting anxious over something that we're fixated on that may or may not ever happen or even be a real possibility. Take it even further. What is depression? Besides just getting stuck in a narrow state where you can't pull yourself out, you can't see a bigger picture. Take it all the way. I don't know if any of you have ever had anyone close to you start stepping into a realm of suicidal thinking. My heart and prayers go out to you if you've been in that state or been involved with someone in that state. It's more common than you think and more people than you know. But even if you take it to that extreme, what is that? Other than getting stuck down the wrong tunnel, blinders on, fixated and focusing on the wrong direction and not being able to pull yourself out. So I want to talk about this concept of how do we go from a narrow focus to widening our focus. Because at its most basic form, if we can learn how to recognize when we're in a wrong tunnel, focusing, fixating, obsessing on the wrong things, and how we can consciously widen our focus to get us out of that tunnel, well, I think it can help serve value if we ever find ourselves in any of those states, fear or stress or anxiety or depression, or heaven forbid, right, taking it a step further. Beautiful day. Check it out. Sun is shining. One of my favorite peaks. Santa Monica behind me. Malibu in front of me. Nature around me. And you know I'm going to ask, who's walking with me this morning? Don't be shy. Don't hide behind a screen. I want to know you are there. I look forward to our time together. If you're back, give me a comment below. Tell me how you're doing. Tell me something new. Tell me something exciting. What's going on in your life? Let me know where you're from. I love seeing all of the different cities and countries and parts of the world that walk together. But please let us know you're out there. If you're new to the crew, welcome to the tribe. We walk together every week and we share inspired thoughts and conversations, and it is a collaboration, so participation is highly encouraged. So don't hide behind the screen and just listen, like chime in, comment, ask questions, share perspective, agree, disagree, other insights. That adds value to all of us. I read them all, and I love our time together and appreciate it. Time is the most valuable thing we have, and I recognize that and appreciate all of you for chiming into our morning walks. I love you by my side. So let's dive into this concept of narrow vision, the problems that it can cause when focused on the wrong thing, and how do we widen our perspective. And you might just start with that question. You know, I'm a big believer that our brains are question answering machines, and a lot of times if you want to find an answer, just learn how to ask yourself the right questions. So I think you might want to write down or note a great question to add to your kind of mental repertoire here is, what can I do right now to widen my perspective? If I were to ask you that right now, give me some feedback in the comments below. What can you do right now to widen your perspective? Or to say it a different way, when you get fixated or focused or tunnel vision going down the wrong rabbit hole, what do you do to widen your perspective? Let me share some thoughts, some tools that I've found effective for me. And let's be honest, guys, we all get stuck in this, right? We all do. I think everybody does. I don't know if there's anybody that's immune to, living all of life without ever getting overly focused down the wrong tunnel. I think all of our brains are wired that way. I don't know about you, but I have a overly ruminating brain, meaning I feel like my brain never turns off. It's always fixated on something. It's always solving something. It's always focused on something. And I think I have one of those brains that is always constantly ruminating, like there is not an off button. So I've had to learn to be conscious of what I'm focused or fixated on. Otherwise, I'll get stuck ruminating down the wrong rabbit hole or down the wrong tunnel. So here's a couple tools I've found effective. Some of them are obvious, some of them are not. A couple of them may sound super weird, but I promise they're highly effective, simple hacks to instantly widen your perspective when you're going down the wrong tunnel. Okay, so let's start with some simple ones. How about nature? One of the easiest ways to instantly widen your perspective is to use your environment. Shift your environment to a place where you can get a wider perspective, right, of where we're at right now in this world. It can be something as simple as getting out in nature. Just stopping and listening to all of the life, right, around you. If you're near the ocean, one of the simplest things you can do is just go sit on the sand, sit on a rock and stare at the endless water or any body of water. If you are, at a place when the sun is setting, taking, 15 minutes a day around the sunset time and just watching the sun set. If it sets and it's dark outside, 10 minutes, 15 minutes, going outside when it's dark and just look up and stare at the stars and the constellations. See if you can find that North Star, Big Dipper, or Orion's Belt, or whatever constellation you're aware of. You guys, it doesn't take much when you use your environment to ground you, right, in a wider perspective. Because you can sit on top of a mountain like this, or stare at the ocean, or watch the sun, or look at the stars, or any variation in between, and all of a sudden, boom, it widens your focus in an instant and puts you back in place where maybe what you're focused and fixated on is not the end-all, be-all, only thing that's going on. So you learn to use your environment to your advantage. It's one of the easiest ways to ground yourself and make you realize, right, there's bigger things out there. There's more things out there. There's greater things out there. Like, it's only takes a single thought to realize, man, like, we're standing on a planet right now that's rotating, right, as we're here, you know, going around a sun in the middle of a solar system in some large universe of which we can't even fathom. It only takes a second to even put your mind in that direction to all of a sudden pull you out of that tunnel vision and widen your perspective. So use your environment as a tool. Here's another one that works really, really well. Talk it out, right? Talk it out. And preferably talk it out with somebody that you know is going to not only be a good empathetic listener, but someone that's going to give you some real advice. You know those people in your life that manage to bring a different perspective. Maybe it's a mentor, maybe it's a spouse, maybe if it's a close friend. But go talk it out. Don't be afraid to get with someone and share what you're really focused and fixating on, right? The tunnel you're stuck in. And sometimes just talking out loud changes the perspective for yourself, but then also getting somebody else to be that mirror, to be that reflection, to give you an alternative point of view is a way to widen that perspective. So we can use our environment, we can use our relationships, right, to widen, right, our perspective. Let's keep going on, you know, some other ideas that can widen perspective. How about finding a way to have a healthy distraction? Now, I said healthy distraction, okay? I'm not a big fan of unhealthy distractions, although that is all too common what people use when they get stuck down the wrong tunnel. You know the list of unhealthy distractions. When a lot of people are fixated down the wrong rabbit hole, their focus is narrow, they feel the pressure, they can't seem to think or pull themselves out of it, they go into that quote-unquote dark place. These are all different ways of describing a narrow vision, right? They turn to unhealthy distractions, right? Unhealthy eating, you know, sitting around and binge watching, you know, Netflix or television, right, for hours and hours and hours on end. You know, vices, whether it be, you know, substances, drinking, drugs, right, you know, cigarettes, smoking. These are all unhealthy distractions, and they are distractions, right? And you know what? Those distractions do work as a way to maybe pull you out of a narrow perspective for a minute, which is why people gravitate to them. But we all know there's consequences of the unhealthy distractions. So you're trading, you know, one issue, one challenge, right, for another down the road. So when I say healthy distractions, pick a healthy distraction. You guys, we all need distractions. We all need to disconnect. We all need to widen our perspective. Healthy distractions might be getting out in nature, might be moving, going for a walk, exercising, hitting the gym, riding your bike, going for a hike. Healthy distractions, you know, might be socializing with friends, might be a hobby or an activity, might be, you know, doing yoga or stretching or meditating, right? Any of these things are amazing distractions. Personal growth, reading a book, an audiobook, the list goes on. So make a list, guys, of healthy distractions you enjoy that you can use as your go-to. And you know, when you get stuck down the rabbit hole, fixated on the wrong thing, triggering your nervous system, creating those emotional states you don't want to be in, right? Boom, you can go to your environment, you can go talk it out within a relationship, you can go choose a healthy distraction. Let me give you a couple more and we'll go a little deeper to maybe a less obvious one. And some of you guys will think I'm crazy with this advice, but I got this advice from a mentor of mine that's kind of an expert in this space. And I've used it, right, in the past, and I found it tremendously effective, even though it might sound strange. Schedule an obsessive appointment. An obsessive appointment. And what do I mean by that is if you're going to sit there and ruminate and get fixated, right, on the wrong thing, and your brain keeps going in that direction, and you can't seem to stop it, well, let's try to contain it. And what an obsessive appointment is you schedule a time in the day where you're just sit there and overly obsess over the thing that you are, right, obsessing over. And you might do this twice a day, or you might need to do this 3 times a day. And it doesn't have to be long. I recommend scheduling 8-minute obsessive appointments, okay? 8 minutes, very, very short, but it's an intense 8 minutes. And during that 8 minutes, you just sit there and intentionally and consciously with everything you got, you obsess over whatever you're obsessing over all the rest of the time. You give it everything. You go to the worst, darkest place, right? You go to every bit of fear. You go all the way down the rabbit hole for 8 minutes. Some of you guys are saying, Blake, you're crazy. I thought you were saying we don't want to do this. Well, if you're going to spend time thinking about it, unconsciously and uncontrolled, let's learn to contain it. So schedule, 2 8-minute obsess appointments or 3 8-minute obsess appointments throughout the day. And what you'll find is a couple things. Number one, it's actually difficult to sit there and intentionally obsess that deep for 8 minutes. You'll sit there and you'll try to obsess, and your brain's going to start solving problems or kind of looking at you in a funny way. And it makes kind of light of the situation, right? The other thing that it does, though, is it gives you a place in your calendar to push the thoughts into. So if you find yourself getting stuck down the tunnel, pulled down the tunnel in that narrow place, right? You can say, oh, you know what? I'm not going to go there right now. I have that scheduled for 12 o'clock. And you can mentally push that to a later time. And then when it gets to that time, actually do it, right? Set the timer and just obsess for 8 minutes. So guys, that is an amazing strategy for those that are stuck down the tunnel, can't turn the mind off, know you're focused and fixated in the wrong place, can't figure out how to widen your perspective, but want to start to contain it. Let's shrink them down into 8-minute blocks 2 to 3 times a day and start to train our brain to push into those blocks instead of constantly ruminating or obsessing or fixating down the wrong rabbit hole throughout the entire day. I know you think I'm crazy, but I challenge you to try that if you ever get in a state where it's absorbing you, it's affecting you, you're slipping into some of those stress or anxiety or depression states. You can't get it out of your mind no matter what you do. Try the obsess appointments and let me know how that works, okay? I told you I'd give you one that are kind of random, but watch the effect. The last one I'll give you is this, and this is probably the ultimate. It's difficult, it's hard to get to, but if you can get to, I think it's the ultimate solution to the tunnel vision challenge, and that is learning how to accept all outcomes. So I'll go deep here for a second. A lot of times when we get overly fixated, right, on the wrong thing and it's triggering emotions we don't want, we don't like, right, but we can't seem to get out of, it usually has to do with some sort of fear of a potential outcome. And that could be you're sitting there afraid of what might happen with your work or your job or your career or your boss, or you're afraid of what might happen in the world right now, right? With, politics or candidates or policy, or you're afraid of what would happen when it comes to health, right? All around us, you're afraid of what might happen when it comes to your family, or insert whatever your overly obsessive, right, topic is. If you continue down that focus, you're really going to find that it's because you're afraid of a potential outcome. Now, I can tell you that, hey, most of the things that we're afraid of never happen. 99.9% of all the things we stress out about and overly fix on are not real, right? Fear, false expectations appearing real. We're afraid of something that never really happens, right? But nonetheless, it makes us feel that way. So when we go there and we can get to a place where we actually accept all possible outcomes, like the worst of all scenarios. What if your fear becomes a reality? What if you do lose the job, or do get fired, or, something does happen in that direction, or, so-and-so does make that decision, or insert whatever your greatest fear is. If you can get to a point where you are okay with it, like truly okay with it, like to the point where, hey, if that happens, I'll restart. If that happens, I can rebuild. If that happens, right, I still have my health and my family. If that happens, right, I know I can overcome. If that happens, people have overcome way more than that. If that happens, you know what? There's people all over the planet that are in worse situations. If that happens, if you can get to a state where you actually are okay with all of the potential outcomes you are afraid of, that fear no longer has control over you and allows you a kind of weird sense of freedom where you're just okay and at peace with however it works out. Because guys, at the end of the day, there's things we can control and there's things we can't control. And a lot of the narrow focus is us trying to control things we can't control. And you're never going to get out of that. You're never going to solve that. You're never going to be able to control that. So we have to learn how to recognize when we're going down the tunnel, the wrong rabbit hole. And we got to learn, how can we widen our focus? And these are some tools, guys, that work. Use your environment. It's a real easy, quick fix. Talk it out, right, with people that give you different perspective. Choose some healthy distractions. Make a list, stick to the healthy ones. It's an easy way to disconnect and recharge. Try the obsess appointment. All right, you'll laugh at me, but try it. Give me some feedback. Let me know how that works. And at the end of the day, how do we get to a place where we're actually okay with all of the possible outcomes that we can or can't control, to give us the freedom to move forward, right? And do all we can, the best we can, because that's all we can do. So guys, there's some thoughts on how to widen focus, get us out of the wrong tunnel, a wrong rabbit hole. I think they're super relevant today because, man, we got a lot of time on our hands and not a lot of places we can go, and a lot of time in our own head and a lot of negativity around us. And there's a ton of things we can fixate on that can spin us wildly out of control on a bunch of wrong tunnels. So hopefully some of those can help with the state that you're in, the situation you're in, and your loved ones. And hey, I'm open to other feedback. What do you do to widen your focus? Give me some comments below. What of the topics that I just shared resonates most with you? Pick one that you're willing to try this week. Give me some feedback in the comment. What one will you try this week if you find yourself in that state? If there's someone that comes to your mind or your heart that you know is getting stuck in these states right now and needs to widen their perspective, hey, tag them in the comments. Share this with your friends. One of the greatest gifts we can give is the gift of simple knowledge, simple hacks to help people become better, help people not only get through, but rise through this time. In the meantime, guys, I love our time together. Thank you for the time today. Have a great day. Until the next time we walk together, stay safe, stay sane, stay healthy, and hey, stay out of the wrong tunnels. Have a great day, everybody.